was upon our holy Russia, and bloody test it was, but we Russians would not just roll over and give up our freedoms and our souls, no matter how much money Wall Street poured into the fist of the Marxists. Those lessons were taken and used to properly prepare the American populace for the surrender of their freedoms, souls to the whims of the elites and their betters. First, the population was dumbed down through a politicized and substandard education system based on pop culture rather than classics. Americans know more about their favorite TV dramas than the drama in D.C. that directly affects their lives. They care more for their right to choke down a McDonald's soy burger, include the soy burger, and Burger King's than for their own constitutional rights. Then they turn around and lecture us about our rights and about our democracy. Then their faith in God was destroyed until their churches, all tens of thousands of different branches and denominations, were for the most part little more than Sunday circuses, and their televangelists and top Protestant mega-preachers were more than happy to sell out their souls and flocks to on the winning side of the pseudo-Marxist politicians or another, including, of course, the Zionists, right? Their flocks may complain, but when explained that they would be on the winning side, their flocks would ever so quickly reject Christ in hopes for earthly power. Even our holy Orthodox churches are scandalously liberalized in America. The final collapse has come with the election of Obama. His speed in the past 3 months has been truly impressive. His spending and money printing has been a record-setting, not just in America's short history in the world, and if this keeps up more than another, there's no sign that it will not. America, at best, will resemble the Weimar Republic, and at worst, Zimbabwe. The past 2 weeks have been the most breathtaking of all. He goes on and talks about a planned redesign of the American Byzantine tax system by the very thieves who use it to bankroll their thefts, losses, and swindles of hundreds of billions of dollars, saying that they make the Russian oligarchs look more than ordinary street thugs. In comparison, these men, of course, are not elected panel, but made up of appointees picked from the very financial oligarchs and their henchmen who are now gorging themselves on trillions of American dollars in one bailout after another. They're also usurping the rights, duties, and powers of American Congress or Parliament. Again, Congress has put up little more than a whimper to their masters. Then came Barack Obama, who now has the power, the self-given power to fire CEOs and assume other employees of private companies at will. Prime Minister Putin, less than 2 months ago, mind you this was in 2009, warned Obama and UK's Blair not to follow the path to Marxism. It only leads to disaster. Apparently, even though we suffered 70 years of the Western-sponsored horror show, we know nothing as foolish, drunken Russians, so let our wise Anglo-Saxon fools find out the folly of their own pride. Again, the American public has taken this with barely a whimper, but a free man whimper. So should it be any surprise to discover that the democratically controlled Congress of America is working on passing new regulation that will give the American Treasury Department the power to set fair maximum salaries, evaluate performance, control how private companies give out pay raises and bonuses. It says here, Senator Barney Franks, a social pervert basking in his homosexuality, of course, amongst the modern enlightened American social or societal norm as well as that of the general West. Homosexuality is not only not a looked down upon life choice, but is often praised as a virtue, and his Marxist enlightenment has led this effort. And finishing up with this article, the Russian owners of American companies and industries should look thoughtfully at the option of closing their facilities down and fleeing the land of the red as fast as possible. In other words, divest while there is still value left. The proud American will go down into his slavery without a fight, beating his chest and proclaiming to the world how free he really is. The world will only snicker. And private investigator Ross Perot warns America could be taken over. It's kind of a prophetic little announcement there. But, he's probably put there to give people maybe a choice of a third party. Never, kind of like Ron Paul, never really supposed to go there because the global mafia doesn't allow it. But he was talking about the sucking sound of jobs going overseas, which is what we've seen. He says, the last thing I ever want to see is our country taken over because we're so financially weak we can't do anything. He said nobody that's running as far as the elections really talks about it, the money spending, and about what we have to do and why we have to do it. They would prefer not to have it discussed. Then next up, Europeans must fight against global banking cartel. So global banking mafia, same thing, right? Chris Dorsey, an economist and banking analyst, said on Monday in an interview with Press TV that competitiveness is they control the system and the people in these nations. That's why I said human assets, right? Human resources. They fight over the scraps. It's ridiculous. I would over here, he says, what's going on and what's driving all of this is not sovereign nations like Germany and Italy, it's institutions that control those governments. We're talking about think tanks and Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the RAND Corporation, all of these types of institutions. It's not the people inside those governments and the institutions that control the Eurozone countries. It's the European Central Bank, which takes orders from the Bank for International Settlements, right? In this country, in the U.S., it's the Federal Reserve Bank. These are private central banks. They have the same ownership. They make coordinated moves. Then Bear Stearns' email refers to bonds as sack of shit or a bag of shit. We're going to leave you to hold a bag of shit, right? That's the old saying. But the bank kept foisting them on investors as a lawsuit. So a new lawsuit accuses Bear Stearns, now owned by J.P. Morgan, of knowingly